to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. Joining me always is B to the L to the A to the K to the E Harrison. Hello.
I loved that.
Just
Can we do that every time?
Freestyled it, mate.
We did freestyle it in so many ways. It was free of style, but it was great. Yeah, this is a little bonus episode. We weren't expecting to do this, were we? I'm still in my Christmas jumper.
You are, mate. You are, but keep it festive. So we've just done our post show for 296, which if you've not watched yet, I suggest you go and watch that or listen to that now. But there was a kind of hangover of stuff that we haven't really sort of talked about. It was a big weekend for MMA. So there was the 2024 press conference, which provided loads of gossip, and then Dana has announced a lot of fights, essentially around UFC 299. So we thought we'd jump on for a little mini bonus episode and talk about some of that. So, I mean, I'm inclined to sort of start at the press conference, where at that conference was Sean Strickland, Dricus, Volk, Cheeto, and who else was there?
Well, to anyone that hasn't seen our post 296 episode,
You've not seen this yet, have you?
was in Disneyland.
You was.
So I did not see this press conference, I'm afraid. But I'm aware of a lot of some of the stuff that went down. But it was Volk, Topuria, Cheeto, Vera, Strickland, Du Plessis.
Yes.
Was there anyone else, or was that mainly it?
That was it. Yeah,
that was it.
I'm sure. Yeah, of course, I didn't mention Sugar. And the whole, as you can imagine, the whole press conference. If Colby Covington wasn't talking enough shit at the pre-fight conference, Sean Strickland stepped up and took the baton and run with it, and it was just more disgusting talk. And he
was there any specifics from Strickland? Because having not watched it, the aftermath of what went on at that press conference, I've seen more horrible things said to Strickland than from Strickland. So, but what did Strickland say?
He literally he likes the sound of his own voice a lot, and he didn't pause. He just was I'm trying to remember if there's anything that was really mean.
That's so funny. It's just really mean.
He's just mean. He's
a meanie.
But he was just starting on everyone, and it's like, what's your beef with O'Malley? Is it just column inches? I don't know. As we've mentioned on the previous show,
is it because he represents the new modern man, O'Malley, whereas Sean Strickland's like old school? I've got a shaved head and I'm a big burly man that likes to do the man dance and all this kind of stuff. Whereas O'Malley's like, I'm going to colour my hair purple and wear leather jackets and things that are,
I don't think Strickland's about that. I think he is, as you say, that kind of alpha douche that I don't think we need in mixed martial arts. I think it paints a really grotty picture. And I know on the previous show you've alluded to, and I listened to him on Joe Rogan where he speaks about his upbringing, and it was unorthodox. And to echo what you said, it doesn't excuse his behaviour, but maybe it paints a wider picture of why he's such an idiot. I'm not on board with it, and it seemed that Dricus weren't that bothered initially in getting in sort of too involved in it.
I thought them two would get on quite well.
Yeah,
I oddly thought that Dricus and Sean would sort of. I think I've seen them say stuff previously about like, oh well, he's a man's man, and it's all that kind of stuff. And I'm surprised to see that this has become as beefy as it has got.
Do you reckon you're a man's man?
Absolutely not. No, look at me. I'm wearing a David Attenborough Christmas jumper. I mean, I'm absolutely not a man's man. No, I don't think Sean would. I don't think I do well with Sean Strickland at all.
No, and I think like. I don't like people that carry themselves like that. It's a bit bullyish, and it's not my thing. And Yeah, so the O'Malley beef just kicked off, and then obviously the Dricus stuff kicked off. To Poirier, I think I felt a bit sorry for him because people seemed a bit reluctant to ask him questions. Because of the language barrier, maybe, but because there was so much going on. When you've got O'Malley and Strickland, why are you going to ask other people questions?
I mean, even Volk, who's a huge star in like a pound for pound fighter, but he's not a crazy character.
No, he's a nice guy.
He's like a normal, nice bloke.
And if you're media press, you want that. So, we saw it firsthand at some of them media days, how some of them work. And it's very... They're trying to take you up a path, and they, and a lot of these fighters, certainly people like Sean Strickland, they play into it so easily. And
again though, look, I have come on this show and said I don't like Strickland's the homophobic stuff, the misogynistic stuff, all of that. I mean, if you're a big fan of his, fine. But the facts are he has said some things that aren't right. But in this instance, having not watched the press conference, from what I've seen on social media, it seems more like he was a victim of some of the kind of horrible stuff, because it sounded to me like O'Malley and Dricus might have said some things alluding to Strickland being sort of sexually abused and stuff like that, which is just to use that. We're talking about Colby in our previous episode and what he used about Leon's dad and all that kind of stuff, and now out of order that is. I think this has got to be right up there. If again, I don't know how much Strickland has come out and actually said about his upbringing and what actually happened. I don't think he's necessarily been overly explicit about details.
He talks about some very unpleasant stuff on the Rogan episode that he guested on. He's well, as we've seen, he's not backwards in coming forwards with opening his mouth, and he talks. It's an interesting listen.
Right.
But yeah, I just think, again, to reference what we said about Colby in the previous episode, the UFC needs to manage these situations, because if people are trying to get one up on somebody talking about child abuse or deceased relatives and things like that, they need to look at the wider picture and just kind of blanket it in, hey, it's a fight game. That's not the way to deal with it. And what's interesting is, if you look at the stuff from the weekend, on socials, most of it is dominated by Sean Strickland and Dricus brawling. That's what I'm saying. Look, so what was said at the press conference has led to, and Dana White admitted he was the idiot that sat them together. Was that a mistake?
Was it a mistake? Well, quite. I mean, again, we mentioned in the previous episode, post 296, how Dana White came out and said, as much as he doesn't agree with what Colby said about Leon's dad, pay-per-view numbers went up 25% after he said that. So he's laying the groundwork here for bad behaviour, effectively, for want of a better phrase, earning you more money and doing well for business. So when these guys are up there and they're going as far as to talk about child abuse and stuff like that, which, I mean, it does, genuinely, I kind of can't believe I'm saying this. I sort of feel like I'd be on Strickland's side in this instance if all that stuff is true, having not properly seen it. But if that is the case, then as you said, the UFC, I think they do need to do a little bit more about that. It's not right.
You look at the audience, that the age bracket of people that love mixed martial arts. It's quite a young audience, and I'm not suggesting they're all children, but there will be a lot of teenagers that are loving this, and that is not the sort of thing that they should be looking towards from world champions. They should conduct so. Or
if you suffer abuse, it's like, well, this kind of stuff makes you think you better keep your mouth shut, otherwise you're going to get the mick taken out of you. Not only are you going to get abused at home, if you talk to anyone about it, you might get the mick taken out of you. So don't talk about it. Keep it to
It's
yourself.
because it's viewed as like a weakness.
Exactly, which is just ridiculous. And we think, we're nearly in 202024. We should have come way further than that as a society. And I think vast majority of society has.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, MMA is just back a few steps, which is really concerning. And it's the thing I hate most about the sport. I love this sport. I love most of the characters in it. I think there's some really good people that get a hard rap because, unfortunately, this kind of stuff makes bigger headlines. But there's wonderful people in this sport doing great things for charity. And unfortunately, you have to cover stuff like this as well, which kind of pulls it down. And maybe we need to do a better job of highlighting some of the better aspects of the sport. But it's difficult to find out about them when all the column inches are taken up by this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know we've got the clip ready to show, but I'm reluctant to show it. I don't think people need to see it. I think most people have seen it. And I think...
Is this the actual brawl
the brawl that happened in the crowd? Because they were Dricus was obviously literally sat behind Sean Strickland. The only people in between that was what looked like Pantosia's children.
I thought it was Pantosia's kids because he had the kid with the really big hair, didn't it? Yeah, and he was in there with Pantosia. So I'm assuming it's Pantosia's kids.
And I know that some of the press referred to it as Gilbert Burns' kids. I mean, if Gilbert Burns' kids just got in the octagon at the end just to get on camera, that's incredible.
That'd be great.
But, and people are almost going, it's nice of Sean Strickland to move the kids out of the way before he jumped on top of Dricus and pandered him on the top of his head. And these are grown men. These are the pinnacle of that division. Yeah. That's the champion and the person that's fighting for that belt. It's just gross, but 100% guarantee. Who's interested in the casual fans of watching Dricus fight? No one. Right? He's not a casual fan's he's probably not even on their radar. Sean Strickland, I mean, I'm still stunned that we're talking about the fact that he's a champion, and yes, he's got a bit of draw because of more about the dumb shit he says rather than his fight style. Yes, you cannot take away what he done to Izzy. It was bizarre, but it happened. Dricus versus Sean Strickland, is that a big fan for fight for that's going to interest casual fans? Probably not. Is it now? 100%. Yeah. And the UFC, you know what they're going to do. That whole trailer, everything in the media build-up is going to showcase that. Showcase that brawl in the crowd, which all that does is send a message to other fighters like, look, you want to get some views on your fights, steam into them. When you're sitting there ringside, when you're sitting amongst other people's families and that, just jump on him and start smashing him in the top of the head.
There should be fines. There should be fines. 100%. Whether it's the Nevada Commission because they're fighters at an event in Nevada, or whether it's the UFC, there should be fines for that kind of stuff. It's just... Yeah, just because people are fighting in the cage doesn't mean they have to carry that kind of stuff outside of the cage. I mean, look, maybe we're in the minority, but I know that we're the type of people that like fighters that are...
professional.
Volk, Arnold Allen, people that they'll give it a little bit, trash talk, whatever, but they know where the line is. They don't cross it. I mean, Arnold doesn't even really do trash talk.
When have I ever heard Arnold Allen do trash talk?
He's a really nice guy. But the people that are just really nice people that you go, I'd like to go to a beer with them. Yeah. I would never go for a beer with Sean Strickland. And I'd probably say something that he found, I don't know, too liberal.
Yeah.
Beat the shit out of me or something.
He would not like our views, mate.
So it wouldn't be for me. But well, look, we've covered that. You don't want to show the brawl, and I understand that completely.
So, in the sort of fallout of that, Dana then announced some huge fights for UFC 299, and boy, oh boy, is that some lineup. I mean,
well, Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera too. We've talked about that in a previous episode when that got announced. The undercard, as you say, though, is looking phenomenal.
So let's start with this, right? Because for those that can't see, I've just pulled up a picture, and it's Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. Yes, please. Yes, please.
I mean, funnily enough, when we had him in the studio to chat about his potential move to the UFC, if you haven't seen that episode, go and check it out. But when we were talking to him, we were listing a few people that we thought might be good fights for him, whatever.
Yeah.
Kevin Holland, I don't remember coming up, actually.
Why not? It makes so much sense. It's such a great fight. They're both good. I mean, Kevin Holland has got very good jiu-jitsu, but I don't think he'll be taking this fight. I don't think he'll be able to take this fight to the ground, I would hope. I want that gentleman's agreement again.
Oh, yeah, but he's been burnt by that before, hasn't he, Holland, when he fought Wonderboy?
Yeah, but I like that.
I just want to see a stand-up war. I think this will be great, and I think it'll be a really fun fight. I just hope that, MVP going in there at 36, 37 now, MVP, that he's still, as explosive as he was, and, all that kind of stuff. Taking a bit of time out, and now he's on a really big stage. There will be pressure on this fight, but when we spoke to him, he just seemed like, another guy that seemed like such a nice, humble, lovely bloke in Michael Venom Page.
Unless you're Cyborg. Was like such a nice guy. I think that he won't let the pressure get to him too much of the occasion of it being UFC. And he's been on some big stages in some big fights.
He has, but this, you could argue this could be the biggest stage of them all.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. But if you ever have to pick a fighter that looks like he's there to give the crowd what they want, he loves the audience. You can tell.
Yeah, he does.
I bet he's already thinking about his celebrations.
100%, and which would be great fun. And Kevin Holland's going to talk.
Yeah,
he's going to talk. He's going to get something out of MVP. Whether MVP wants to be respectful or whether he wants to give some trash talk, whatever he wants to do, it's going to be good fun. I cannot wait for this. I really hope that he does well in this fight and leads him on to even bigger and better fights going forward in the UFC. What's next on your list? Oh, yeah. So for the bantamweight, Stu's just pulled up Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. I was really hoping for Yan versus Figueiredo, but that fight now not happening. I think that's a better fight than this.
What did you make of Yadong's last time out in the octagon? I didn't think it was overly exciting.
I'm trying to think who he fought now. I'm trying to remember. He fought Chris Gutierrez, unanimous decision. Did he use a lot of wrestling in that fight? Yeah. Gutierrez, I think, was very good kicker. Gutierrez goes to leg kicks and all that kind of stuff. I think that, this was always going to be a thing where Song Yadong uses that kind of team alpha male approach of get the wrestling going. But Song can crack.
Yeah.
Like, he's a really phenomenal striker. He's got good boxing, good power in his hands. So I think this could be really interesting. And obviously Yan now
you want to talk good boxing though.
Well, yeah, but Yan is on a 3-fight losing streak. Aljo, Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili, 2 splits and then a unanimous decision. Song Yadong, very different style to all those guys.
This is a well matched fight insofar as Yan needs a win over somebody pretty decent, and I think this is a step up for Yadong.
Giggling like school kids. It was so immature. Stuart Whiffen, immature. Anything more you want to say about Yadong? No. Okay, well then let's move on. Let's move on to another fight. What other fights have we got on your little keyboard there?
Okay.
Oh yes. So Ian Garry was obviously out of his fight against Vicente Luque. You're still laughing at Yadong.
Oh,
Jesus.
God, I've just gone. I've gone, mate. Oh, dear.
You're a 50-year-old man.
Oh, no, mate. It's pathetic. So Luque was the fight that was going to happen, right?
Yes. Garry gets pneumonia and can't fight. Instead of rebooking the Luque fight, Dana White said something about Luque being offered a bunch of fights and he turned them all down, so I don't know what was going on there.
But was the Jeff Neal fight initially going to be his next fight?
Before Neil Magny.
That's right.
And it got changed to Neil Magny. That's where Ian Garry put up had that T-shirt with Jeff Neal's mugshot on it, which again, not something I would do, not something I was a fan of, but
I wonder.
It's not bringing in family or anything, so maybe it doesn't cross a line.
I wonder what's going to happen now with that kind of behaviour, because I think Ian was doing that and then he done all the stuff against Magny, and people like Neil Magny. I think he made a sort of flippant comment, Magny, and I think Ian Garry pounced on it, and I think sort of since then he's. Make no mistake, Ian Garry has always been lovely to us and has been very supportive of the podcast, as has Layla. But he come out of that fantastic win over Magny, like, took him to school. But in that meantime, the world of MMA has just turned on him.
It really has.
Massively. And I
think unfairly in a lot of ways as well, particularly with regards to his wife. Again, I think the line is, and even Dana White's come out and said, the line is family. You don't bring family into it.
Dana, but what are you going to do about it? Yeah, anyone can talk it, but he's just talking, the same as them. You got to walk it, and you've got to, reprimand people for doing that, and make them accountable for what they're doing, and it's not happening. And I wonder, it looks to me that it's been unfair. I mean, I was on YouTube at the weekend, and I put in Ian Garry, and there was people that had set up like YouTube vlogs where they're literally just referring to Layla with just like insanely derogatory terms, like, and just saying like, this is what she's done, this is what she's done, this is what she's done, he's a cuck and all of this stuff. And it was like, fucking hell, like, you've given up like an hour of your time to just absolutely destroy these people, and it's got thousands and thousands of plays, and it's like...
But that's why then, isn't it?
And exactly why, and I know that.
We're not that style. We don't want to make money off of just being nasty about people. That's not our vibe.
Absolutely.
But other people, they're more than happy to do it if it means a pound note in the pocket.
But I do think that, yes, that's always going to go on because that's out of, the organisation's control, but when it's within the organisation through people that have contracted to that organisation, I think there should be something in place to kind of project the sport in such a better way. And
it won't happen under Dana White.
No. So to move things on, I'm really interested to see how Ian's going to come out of this when the media starts again, because he's famously sort of took a video camera everywhere he's gone and documenting this stuff at gyms, and I believe that was part of the problem at Renegade.
Well, that was one that was maybe his fault.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the stuff about his wife and all that, I'm just like, and him taking the name, like he's explicitly said previously he took the name because Layla has an older child from a different marriage and he wanted them all to feel like a family. It's nothing to do with anything else or being bullied into it by his wife or anything. It's a really lovely thing for him to do for this young boy that wants to feel part of this new family. And I think it's very obvious that a young child, when parents have split up, mum's with someone new and they've had another baby, might feel an element of, am I sort of being replaced? Or anything. I mean, we're talking about children here. And Ian's done a really lovely thing of taking on that name to make that child feel part of the family.
Yeah,
I think that's a really nice thing to do. So the stuff on that, I just think it's ridiculous, the amount of people jumping on it. But the gym stuff, I sort of get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's just got caught up in it a bit. And I think all of a sudden, he's on an absolute tear. Everybody's excited about Ian Garry.
Yep.
And I think he's just got a bit caught up in the moment. And I think, like anything, when, all of a sudden you get put on a pedestal, there's a lot of people waiting to knock you back down. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's happened. I think he's just gone, this is great. I can do my thing and it's all going brilliant. I can go from gym to gym with my family. I've got the best life. I'm on a tear in the UFC. And I think people are like, yeah, he's getting a bit too big for his boots. Let's just bring him back down to earth a little bit. And it's an ugly part of the way the world works like that. And I think, but he's been brought down with a bump, and it just feels a bit worrying. And I worry how it's going to affect his performance, how it's going to affect the way that he carries himself moving forward. Is he going to be reluctant to kind of sort of say and do as much because he's being dragged over the coals every time he says anything or does anything? Is he going to be worried that, for taking his wife to camps or to events, because
I don't think he'll be as concerned about his behaviour or what he says, because I think when you talk, Ian's so confident. He's human, so I'm sure this stuff will be getting to him because, again, it's about family and all that kind of stuff. But I think when it comes to him going somewhere with his wife or whatever it is, I can think that would be a worry for you.
100%.
Because it doesn't take much for just a bunch of fans at an event to shout something over, and it affects her, it affects the kids, all that kind of stuff.
It will affect his pride.
And it affects his pride. I mean, he can't just go around smashing up a bunch of fans because they've said something. Like, you can't do that. So there'll be other people watching this going, yeah, but words have consequences, isn't it? But if he does that, he'll end up, But
this is my point. So does it change the way that he carries himself and the way that, he operates? Will he be more reclusive and more, I'm just not going to bother putting myself in that situation?
I think on his own, no. But I think when it comes to stuff with regards to Layla, maybe. I don't know. But a lot of it all seems very unfair. But the gym stuff, because Dave Lavelle was on the MMA Hour a bit recently, and he was saying that it was more about Ian's always late for sessions, he's bringing in the cameras, he's doing all that stuff, and just didn't have the right attitude for the gym. Now, I don't know what happened to him at Killcliff. At Killcliff, I don't know if he was asked to leave or if he just left. But if he was asked to leave, and I'm not saying that's the case, he might still have a wonderful relationship with Henry Hooft and everyone at that gym. But if he was asked to leave, then that is the gym in Ireland. What was it? Chris Field's gym, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Team KF, Renegade, maybe Killcliff, I don't know. It's not a great look to have had gyms say, we're parting ways with you.
And these people
or
talk
whatever it
without the sort of furore of the media. They talk anyway.
Yes.
I'm sure it's a very small community, and like you say, if you have been sort of told that 3 gyms and move on, we was at that fight, for the Cage Warrior strap where he had no corner. Paul Hughes cornered him. He had no corner because they just went nah, and I don't know what that was for. I don't think anyone ever really got to the bottom of that, and but I think if we sort of park up all of that outside the octagon and look at him as a fighter inside the octagon, he's looked incredible, and I think
of course.
this fight interests me a little bit more than the Luque fight. I think there was that kind of gym buddies thing where they were they were mates and stuff like that, and so there's a little bit of beef between these two, as we've seen.
I think there's more adversity to overcome, not just outside of the cage, but inside the cage against Jeff Neal, who's someone you've got a little bit of beef with. And so I think that you're right. I think the Luque fight could have turned into a glorified spar. I mean, Luque very rarely does that. When Luque comes to fight, he comes to fight. Yeah. But I think Jeff Neal will want to knock out Ian Garry. And I think that gives Ian something more to worry about. And if he overcomes it, that's a great thing.
The thing is, if Jeff Neal comes swinging, I think Ian Garry is a very good counter puncher. He's a sniper with them counters. I think Ian Garry is championship material. I think in the years to come, if he continues on that trajectory that he is inside the octagon, then I expect very, very big things. Okay, right. Well, I guess let's just move back on the old picture front there to that little picture of our lovely faces. So let's have a little look at some other stuff on the card. So we've spoken about Vera. One of the other fights that was announced was Gilbert Burns versus Jack Maddalena.
Say it again. Jack Della Maddalena, and Jack Della Maddalena, and Jack Della Maddalena. Della Maddalena. So Della Maddalena is ranked 11th.
That's the fastest anyone's ever said that name.
Della Maddalena. It's ranked 11th, and Gilbert Burns ranked 4th. So big step up for JDM. If he can do that against Burns, he's got to be in there with one away from a title shot. If
100%.
not, next fight could be a title shot. I'm trying to see who he fought in his last fight. I think it was a last-minute replacement where he fought someone and maybe didn't do amazingly well, but still got the win, if memory serves. That was it. No, yeah. So he fought Basil Havez on short notice and got that win by split decision. Then fought Kevin Holland and got a win by split decision. So he's gone from 4 first-round finishes in a row in the UFC to then 2 split decisions. So it'll be really interesting. Gilbert Burns, by far and away, the toughest fight Jack will have had.
It's a big step up, isn't it?
It's a huge step up, really, when you think his last fight was a short notice guy, and then Kevin Holland. Huge step up. Gilbert Burns been fighting killer after killer, really. Lost to Usman, win over Wonderboy, lost to Hamzat, win over Magny, win over Masvidal, lost to Bilal Muhammad. Before the Usman fight, win over Woodley, win over Maya. Like, he's fought best of the best at the time. I know not all of those fighters have stayed at the top end, like your Woodleys and stuff like that, but they're still quality fighters. So, yeah, huge step up for Jack Della Maddalena. But if he wins it, then he's in there. That's it. He's a welterweight contender after that. So I don't know how that fight's going to go, but certainly really, really, really interesting.
Curtis Blades versus Jayton Almeida.
Yeah, that to me is the fight that had to be made at heavyweight. That to me is a number 1 contender fight for Tom's interim belt. I think the way the heavyweight division plays out is Jones versus Miocic will happen, unfortunately.
I did see Adam Catterall speaking to Dana, and he said that they role played. It was quite good. He was doing an impression of Tom and was saying, like, whilst Jones is injured, can I fight Stipe? And he's like, nope. And he weren't having a drop of it. Like, so that fight, as you say, it's Jones and Stipe is going to happen, and I think it leaves Tom, in a bit of a weird spot, and I think, I don't know. It sounds like Garn don't want that, and
Garn doesn't want what?
Aspinall.
Yeah, he'll want him now that he's champ.
You think?
Yeah, I think he's even messaged him on
really?
Twitter or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he swerved him at the Paris thing.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to fight someone ranked above him.
Right.
But now Tom's the interim champ, so he's the guy. So I think Manchester, we will see Tom versus Garn for the interim belt. Jones versus Stipe will happen when Jones is healthy, and both will retire. And then Aspinall needs a contender, and that contender, I think, is either Blades or Almeida. And I think Blades is arguably the biggest threat to Tom Aspinall. Obviously, he has a win over him, but it's a weird, contentious leg injury win. But just the makeup of
I
Blades.
Completely agree.
He's athletic. He's a very good wrestler. His striking's not as good as Tom's, but I just think he's athletic as well. And these kind of big athletic heavyweights, that's what Tom lords over them with a lot of the time, is that athleticism and the fact that he's so well-rounded. Blades, maybe not as good a striker, but a better wrestler. Tom probably better with his submissions. I think that's a really interesting fight. Almeida, very good grappler, but it just did that lay and pray over Derek Lewis over 5 rounds, which was very boring. But also his size. Almeida's not big enough to really compete. And I think this will show us a lot. Almeida won't be able to just grapple the hell out of a Curtis Blades that's probably a good, 2 stone heavier than him or something like that. And a very decorated or good wrestler. So I think if Almeida gets through Blades, then wow, Almeida, great job. You're next up for the belt, and that'll be really interesting. But I think if Blades wins, which I think he will, then we've got something really good on our hands for an interim title between Tom and Curtis Blades in a rematch, maybe towards the end of the year. If Aspinall beats Garn in Manchester, maybe they do something November MSG. Maybe they do November MSG, Jones Miocic, Aspinall versus Blades. And it's kind of a nice passing of the torch from the current heavyweight champ to the interim heavyweight champ.
Absolutely. There's some other fights on the card, which I'm sure, obviously, when we get closer to that event, we'll do a deep dive. Pedro Munoz is fighting Kyler Phillips. Katlyn Chookagian is fighting Macy Barber. Mm-hmm. Gamrot versus RDA.
Oh, what a fight that is.
That's a great fight, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's taken me by surprise a bit. Who did Gamrot beat Fiziev in the last fight? I know, again, that was a slight kind of like injury fight, but I really rate Gamrot. I think Gamrot's a phenomenal fighter. He's ranked, where is he ranked right now? Gamrot is ranked 6th. RDA is ranked 11th. So he's fighting back in the rankings, Gamrot there, but I mean he's fighting a former champ and a bit of a legend, so maybe that's all right for him. But I have to say, I do think Gamrot's my choice to win that fight.
I agree. And if I was Gamrot, I'd be thinking I'd much rather fight RDA, who's ranked at number 10, than start messing around. Sorry, he's ranked. Is he ranked? Number 11 RDA, and I'd rather that than start looking at number 12, because I would not want that Benoit Saint Denis heat coming at me.
No, but I mean, Gamrot's got some really great wins under his belt. I mean, Diego Ferreira, Arman Sarukian, even though I actually think Arman won that fight, lost to Benil Dariush in a decision loss, which I do think he lost, but then Jalen Turner win, Rafael Fiziev win, but it was a leg injury. I think maybe this is a good fight for Gamrot, actually. On second thought, I was a bit unsure about it, but now I'm looking at it and going, no, maybe he does need a good solid win over a veteran like RDA, and then he can push forward, hopefully, in the rankings. But it's just so difficult at lightweight. You got Gaethje, you got Poirier, you got Charles Oliveira.
We've said before, it's kind of locked up, isn't it, up there? And I think, Gamrot's got to do something pretty special to start finding himself right in the mix of them, in them sort of upper echelons of that.
Yeah,
that
I just
division.
don't see the Poiriers of the world taking that fight. Really,
I don't think it's on their. It's not in their interest to do that. I think it's not a big earning fight, is it?
No.
All right. Well, look, we've been recording for over half an hour. This was a little Brucey bonus show.
Brucey bonus for you there, guys.
So why not, if you've missed it already, go and check out our post 296 chat. We've obviously spoke on this episode about MVP's move to the UFC. Why not go watch our chat with MVP? Obviously, you can listen to all these shows as well wherever you get your podcasts. But if you're listening and you've not had a watch yet, head over to YouTube and check out our new studio, because it's lush, and we've got some superstars coming in here in 2024. Have a lovely week. Thanks ever so much for listening. Please subscribe. Why not drop us a message? We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook and X. We're both on Instagram probably more than anything, and our boy Jamie is always manning the controls over there as well. So sling us a message, let us know what you think of the show, let us know who you'd like to hear us chat to, and we'll do our best in 2024 to keep growing this and giving you all that MMA good stuff.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, give us a rate and review and all that stuff. And we've got our Champions Prediction episode coming up soon. I really hope they're getting you on that camera there, doing your little cross-eyed thing. But we've got our Champions Prediction episode coming up just after Christmas, before the start of the year. We'll record that, where we look back at our predictions for 2023, how well or badly we did, and then we will predict our champions for 2024 at the end of 2024. And so if you have your suggestions of who you think might be champ at the end of 2024, sling us a message. Maybe we'll read some of them out, see who agrees with Stu, who agrees with me, and we'll go from there. And also, we've got, I think, our fan question episode coming out some point soon.
Absolutely.
As well. So enough to get you through Christmas.
Absolutely.
We're getting you through Christmas and the New Year period, guys, while the UFC and MMA is away, and we will pick you back up in the new year with all some more lovely, violent things.
Yes. Bye.